So hello and welcome back to the video everyone. In the last video we have installed SSMS and we have also generated our backend environment by installing the SQL server, right? So in this video we are first of all going to connect to our database engine. Okay, so whenever you will open your SSMS, it will give a pop-up like this where it will be asking about connecting to which type of servers, right? We'll discuss about all these things later, that is SAS, which is analytical service, the reporting service, integration service, that's SSIS. So we'll discuss all that ahead in the video. Now we will just connect to the server type we will be choosing as database engine. And by default, since you have installed the SQL server and the configurations, you will be getting one instance. You will not be getting all these three instances. I have basically generated this. You will get one default instance that will be your working as server name. Okay, and then moving ahead, the authentication step. So authentication, we are having multiple authentication that is coming in SQL server that we can configure later. But right now we will be going with Windows authentication, which is basically organized or managed by the Windows itself. Okay, so that's why it is basically called as Windows authentication, and we will hit to connect. Okay, so by this you can see that this is our instance. This is our SQL server instance that we have created and that is generated. Okay, under this we are having multiple folders, as you can see, like databases, and there are, apart from that, there are other things also which I will basically discuss one on one. I will discuss that in the ahead video when I will be basically talking all about the SQL server infrastructure. So during the infrastructure videos I will be discussing about everything, how a login is generated, what are the server level roles, database level roles, schema roles, the auditing configuration, the jobs that is basically we are scheduling using SQL server agent. So all those we will basically discuss in during the SQL server infrastructure video. Fine, now let's come back to the point. So we have connected to our server. Now first step is that we need to basically generate one database under which we can store our tables, right? So I will be using some of the base tables. I'm using some of the base data in order to basically pull the data, and then we can do the data analytics on this, right? So this video specifically I'm just giving an overview that how you can open SSMS and how you can import the data in it. So our first step is generated, right? So first step is we have connected to the SQL server. You can expand the database, and here you can see two things, that is system database and database snapshot. I will come to these two later. Now let's generate one database. So for generating the database you have either two options. First option is by clicking a right click over the database folder, by which you will get multiple options, right? So you can choose to go with new database. So here you will be getting a new database name, that way let's mention that as test DB. Okay, so this is one of the database that we are creating. If you are having a multiple owners, that we can basically assign the login from here and all those things we will discuss again in infrastructure video that I will explain. So now let's see that by clicking on the the new database option, we are getting this pop-up, and here we can mention the name of the database, and you can see two files are basically getting generated. Okay, so the first file is where our all the information, that is tables, will be stored. Tables means that is basically the primary file group, and the secondary one is which, the logmetric file. Logmetric file means which will store all the data movements that is happening inside this database, the track record of it. Okay, so that is going to basically stored out in the test DB log file, the transaction log file, and this is the source where it is basically getting stored, that is the path. Okay, now let's click on OK. So here you can see our database has been generated. Okay, there is one more technique, if you want, you can basically opt to generate the database using the T-SQL query method also. Let me first drop this database and then let me show you that once again. Okay, so once you are here, the pop-up, just open a query. Okay, just open a query. Now you can see that this is the query window where basically we are writing the queries and that is getting executed. So the second method is we can generate the database using the T-SQL commands. So we are writing as create database testdb. Now you can see the commands completed successfully, it says, but you can't see any database here. So just do one thing, just refresh it once, and even if after refreshing it is not coming, so just do one more thing, just right click on any of the folder and refresh it. See, the new testdb has been generated, right? So first step, we have connected to the SQL Server environment, right? The instance we have logged in using the Windows authentication. Then we have generated one database, right? We have generated one database. Now in the second step, we need to generate the table, right? So we will expand this table. So we will expand these table, right? So this we can generate a table. Now let's see that how we can generate it. So we need to create a table. So just right click on the folder, whatever thing that you want to basically generate. Okay, so just right click on the table and you can see multiple type of tables it is asking. It can be table, temporal table, ledger table, the graph table, the edges that I have basically explained in the data fundamentals videos. Okay, so all those things basically are coming under the table itself. Now we are just going to create one simple table, so we will go and choose the option of table. Okay, so this is the GUI method how we are generating a table. Now let's mention the table name as employee ID, the data type we are choosing as. Okay, just keep in mind one thing, as I am mentioning here employee ID, right? So employee ID will be the integer. If I choose it as n character, that means it is an unoptimized data format. Okay, so I always need to choose the correct data type, that is integer. The second column that we are going to choose as employee name. Okay, and the data type as n varchar max. Okay, so fine. So these two tables we have generated. Now let's save this by Control S. Okay, so it is asking for the name of the table. So I am mentioning it as sample table and click on OK. Okay, so now you can see it is saying dbo.sample table. Let's refresh this once again. Okay, so now you can see we have successfully created a table, right? Now we will do what? We will try to check that what is the data that is present inside the table. So we will write the query to view any data from any table. It says select asterisk, that means select all the data, that means view all the data that is present inside what? This table, dbo.sample table. Now let me give you one more explanation here. What is this dbo that is coming? Okay, so dbo is basically the kind of schema. Schema can be a system default, user default, or it can be self-generated also. So this is what? This is self-generated, which is coming by default from the SQL Server. So DBO is database object. Okay, the full form of DBO is database object. So these schema is basically user defined. It can be user defined, but right now DBO is the system generated file schema which is chosen by SQL Server by default. Okay, so this is the schema that this table is following. And what schema is exactly? So schema is basically which defines the kind of element which is present inside the object. Okay, so here we are having the kind of element that we are having is database type object. Okay, so that is why it is saying as dvo dot the name of the table. Now you can see there is one error that is coming, right? There is one red line that is coming. If I run this query by selecting this, let's execute it. So you can see there is a syntax error that is saying. So this error is not because we have written a wrong query. This error is actually because we have not chosen the correct database, because this table is present under which? This table is present under testdb. So make sure that you are choosing the correct database. Okay, and now let's run this. Okay, yeah, there is a mistake also. So it should be select all from dvo.table. Let me show you again. If you put as master, you will again get an error. Is it stored in? Let me just cross check. Use master. Okay, yeah, got it, correct. So the mistake which I was basically making, why this error was coming, let me give you an explanation of that also. So if I will use the master table, this is actually the transact SQL or SQL query to switch between the databases. I will show you. Now let's just assume that we are currently in testdb database. So if we want to switch to master, you can see we have switched to master. And if we run this table that is under master, so it says the name of column. So master database basically stores the metadata or the information that which type of database objects are present inside the table. And where is this master stored out? This master is stored out in the system databases. I will tell you more and more depth about these system databases also ahead. So now let's see the difference. So whenever you will run a query for master database, you will get something like this, that there is two columns present. But when you will run the query in the right database, you will see the exact name of the column and exact data that is present. Okay, so always make sure that you choose the correct database. Now you can see the data we are having is totally empty, right? So this was one method how we can generate a table using GUI method. Now let's delete this and generate another table, or let's generate the same table using transact SQL. So we'll mention create table sample data, and here we are mentioning employee ID and name of the data type, that is integer. Then again we are generating one new column, that is employee name and varchar max. So now we are generating a new table using the transact SQL, and rest all are basically same. How we can see the data that is present inside. Okay, so this is actually changed to capital S. Okay, sample data it is. Yeah, so this is how we can generate using transact SQL. So in this video we have seen how we can connect to SQL Server. We have seen how to generate a database using both GUI as well as transact SQL method, and the same thing we have seen for the creating table. Okay, see you in the next video, and there we will see how we can import the data.